Today I'm taking a look at my small collection of Sony table radios. From left to right, the model numbers are as follows. The first one is an ICF-9740W. The next one is an ICF-9580W. The next one is an ICF-9540W. And the last one is an ICF-9650W. I'll start off first with the ICF-9740W. This radio, you can see, has just basically power and volume control, a single tone control, and a loudness button, off or on, and band select, AM or FM, and tuning, of course. I got this radio on eBay last year sometime. I think I paid $10 or $11 for it, and it's in pretty good shape. The one exception here, which is just this corner here, is delaminated a little bit. And I believe this is the most modern radio of all of these. You can see it's got a sticker that says simulated wood cabinet on it, so it's not real, which was kind of obvious if you just looked at it. And then on the back, you can see that there is a standard ground and an antenna, external antenna. It just says FM, external antenna, so I assume that for AM it uses the built-in ferrite core or whatever might be in there. And then you can also see that this was made in Taiwan. There's the serial number. I'm not sure if there's any kind of date code on this or not. I suppose I could pull the back off and maybe look at some ICs to try and get some date codes or something, but I'm not going to bother for the purposes of this video. This is just a quick test type video. Next up, I'll take a look at the ICF-9580W. This was also an eBay find. Probably didn't pay more than $10 for this either. You can see the radio is in pretty good condition overall. The wood is not chipped or anything like that. And the speaker grill is in good condition, no rips. The only complaint that I have, and I might be able to address this if I put a little effort into it, is that the brushed aluminum or brushed nickel or whatever this finish is supposed to be is a little bit tarnished. There's some kind of marks in it. I wouldn't call it pitting, but you can kind of see it's a little bit mottled, I guess. And then the other complaint I have with this radio is that the marking that they used on the knobs and dials is very similar in color to the brushed nickel or brushed aluminum or whatever that is supposed to be. And there you can see it in the camera on the bass and treble knobs. I'm not sure if it's white or if it was supposed to be silver, or if it's just been faded in time. Maybe somebody tried to clean it at one point and it kind of faded the marking. But at any rate, it's a little bit difficult to read. That may be able to be restored. I just haven't tried doing it yet. So the controls on this radio, it has a separate power switch, it's got a band switch, and it's got separate tone controls. It's got treble and bass separate instead of just one tone control, high and low. It's got the volume control here and the tuning dial. I'll spin it around and we'll have a look at the back of the radio. And let's get this into the shot. And you can see here, try and get that nameplate a little more visible. So you can see the model number there, 9580W, the serial number, and I don't see a date code on this one either. However, you can see here from the tag that this one was made in Japan. So I assume that this one is a bit older. If I had to guess, I'd say mid to late 70s maybe. I'm not sure. But at any rate, as far as antenna connections go, it's a little difficult to see there because the labeling is embossed on the plastic, and I don't know if it's visible at all here in the shot. I'll try and shine a light there to kind of see the wording there. You can see that this is a ground, and then it's got a FM and an AM control, and that just says external antenna. So you could just put a wire on either of those lugs and ground it here. And for right now, I don't have an antenna on it. Again, just like the others, I'm going to use whatever's internal. A lot of these radios end up using the power cord for an FM antenna somehow, they decouple it and use the wire for an FM antenna and then have a built-in ferrite antenna for AM. Okay, the next radio here is the ICF-9540W, and this is the radio that I've had the longest in terms of these Sonys anyway. And again, I'm kind of at a funny angle just to minimize glare in the room here with the lighting as it is. One of the complaints that I have with this radio and the 9740, the first radio as a matter of fact, is that the tuning dial is a bit hard to see. And of course I know that I'm at kind of a funny angle here just with the camera, but even dead on this is hard to see. It's not backlit, and this smoky tinted plastic that's over it just makes it difficult to read. This radio has a power switch here, which is kind of a flat bar compared to the round knobs that the other radios have. It's got a volume slider and a tone slider, high and low. Not separate bass and treble controls. And then the band switch is up here, and I'm not sure if it's evident there in the video or not, but there is an orange sort of indicator that I believe is just part of the switch or button. There, you can see it now that I zoomed in. That when you push this, it kind of changes to FM or AM. That's not backlit or anything, it's just orange plastic. So again, when you're a little bit far from it, it's hard to see. Okay, so I'll spin this around and you can take a look at the back here. I believe this radio is older than the 9740 but newer than the 9850. Just from the fact that it's made from plastic as opposed to wood. The case is got the fake wood look to it, but it's made of plastic. And of course the top is silver. There, I don't know if that was in the previous shot, but okay, so on the back, let's see, we can zoom in a little bit on the wording there. It's all silk screened right on the back cover. You can see the model number there. And again, no date, but made in Taiwan, just like the first radio. So again, not a super old radio. I'm not sure what the age on this one would be. Maybe 80s or 90s. Hard to say. But this one here, as far as the antenna connections go, it has a 75 ohm external FM antenna, or you can short it to use an internal antenna. And I assume that this is for FM only again, as it doesn't say anything about AM. AM is probably using the internal ferrite antenna only. Last we have the Sony ICF-9650W. This radio was also an eBay find. Again, probably $10 or $12, not more than that. And it's in pretty good condition overall, except for a couple blemishes in the grill cloth here, but those aren't too bad. And what they actually look like is rips that somebody fixed or patched in some other material or something. Or maybe some of the threads just came unraveled on there. I'm not quite sure. I guess I could zoom in a little bit and maybe you can kind of see what's going on there. It's hard to tell if some of the threads in the pattern just unraveled or if somebody just pasted a little piece in there that looked similar. But at any rate, not an actual rip, just a blemish. So as far as controls go, this has a combined volume control and power switch. It's got separate bass and treble controls, a tuning knob, and a band switch, and a tuning dial. And from first glance, the camera makes this look more readable than it is, but in person there's a little bit of a glare that's making it difficult to read. But as you'll see in a minute, this one is backlit, so when the radio is on, it's fairly easy to read. But with it off, it's hard to see it, just like the other ones all seem a little bit difficult. But none of the other radios have backlights. This is the only one that has a backlight. On the back, or well, first on the side, you can see simulated wood cabinet. And then you can see on the back here that this one is similar to the others, though it is wood. It's not plastic like the 9540, but this one is sort of a laminated plywood as opposed to particle board, but it's got the veneer on it just like the others. But this one seems in pretty good shape. So as far as on the back goes, you can see the labeling there. The model number is 9650W, as I said before, and made in Taiwan. So again, this one is, I don't know, it's hard to say, maybe 80s or early 90s, I really don't know. And then as far as antenna connections go, again, this one here, it shows that this is a ground, and this is for the FM antenna over here. Instead of a 3-terminal thing, it's got the just the 2 terminals. So that probably means, again, just like the others, we're using an internal ferrite rod for an AM antenna, and then the FM antenna is either the wire or maybe coupled to the power cord if you don't have a wire on here. Okay, so I'm going to do a test on each of these radios. I've got it tuned. I've got each radio tuned to WTIC AM 1080 out of Hartford, Connecticut. That is probably going to be the strongest station at this location. They've got a 50,000 watt signal, and like I said, should be about the strongest. Now, it's the middle of the day, and they'll be playing Rush Limbaugh, so if you're not a Rush Limbaugh fan, I kind of apologize for that, but it's what we've got to work with for this test. So, like I said, please bear with it if you're not a Rush fan. Okay, so I'll switch on the first radio here, the 9740.
When you handle over 15,000 pieces of furniture a day,
and that's a commercial. That's obviously not Rush right there. But you can hear that it's tuned in fairly well, and there's a fair amount of bandwidth there to work with. You can center it up fairly good, and I'm not sure if it's evident in the background, but there's a little bit of static or noise coming through either from the lights here in the room or the wireless router. Wreaks a little havoc on AM sometimes in this house.
Hello, Dad. Susan? Guys, I think it's about time to get in the car and maybe see some green things.
Okay, and I'm not sure if you heard the background noise on the signal there. I don't know how well it came through the camera, but there was a little bit of crackly on there. Certainly a usable signal, and easy to listen to, but not perfect. Okay, here's the 9580. And again, we've got that little bit of hum, filter capacitor hum, which might be degrading things a bit. Okay, and there's Rush, but there's a tiny bit of noise on the signal, but it's mostly not there. Tuning is about the same as the other. I can kind of tune it around and center it up real good. And then, like I said, you can hear a little bit of that background noise. Not a lot. The sound quality on this radio is maybe a touch better than the other one, which helps mask it a little bit.
Easter weekend to experience all that and so much more. We'll even have Easter egg hunts for all the kids at all.
Okay, so now we'll try the 9650.
Here's the good news. It's an IRS program called the Fresh Start Initiative.
And there,
lower your tax debt. Find out if you
can hear just the slightest amount of background noise. It's hardly even there at all. And tuning is pretty good. Just like the others, I can center it up fairly well. And sound is definitely the best on this one as far as this station and this band goes. And again, hardly any noise at all from the Wi-Fi router or the lights here.
I'm John Silva. WTIC 1080 News. Cloudy skies, breezy, some showers and thunder showers possible. Temperatures expected to head toward the 60-degree mark.
Okay, and last but not least, I'll try the 9540. And okay, right away, this one, you can hear quite a bit of noise on that signal. And the tuning is a lot narrower than the other radios. There's not a lot of movement at all to get that thing centered up. And that's about as good as I can get it. And you can hear quite a bit of noise in there from the wireless router and the lights.
Areas of the country or other areas of the world. So the last thing we want is sequestering everybody, inducing panic and saying, please don't go outside.
Okay, so that was the kind of the basic test of AM for each of these radios. So now I will tune them all to an FM station and see how they do. Okay, so I've switched over to FM, and I'll try and limit the time that I spend on any of these stations, just for the copyright police, music police here on YouTube. Try not to get nabbed for that, but at any rate, I've got each of these radios tuned to 91.7 FM WHUS, which is a college station. That's actually the college station for the University of Connecticut. But it is the closest station to this location, and is probably going to be about the strongest station that I can receive, even though it might be down on power compared to a commercial broadcast station. So I'll start there and see what happens. Okay, so I'll start off with the 9740. And you can hear I've got it tuned in pretty well. And again, I'll try not to sit on there for any length of time, just to not trigger any copyright problems. But okay, so you could hear that was pretty clear, coming in pretty strong. There was maybe a tiny bit of fuzz on there, and when I tuned it, you could probably notice that when I got my hand near the radio, it changed the tuning a little bit. So this one was a little bit twitchy, but once I got it tuned in there, it was fine. Like I said, maybe a tiny bit of fringe noise, but certainly usable. Okay, let's see how the 9580 does. And I apologize if I've called this thing a 9850 at any point previously in the video, or if I do it again after this. I seem to be dyslexic on this model number for some reason, but it is a 9580. So I'll fire it up and see how it does. And again, I'll just kind of play a little bit of a sample and then comment on it. Okay, so you could hear that one was nice and strong and clear, very little noise, if any, and I think you could see that I tuned it a little bit there, and it had a nice wide tuning area to kind of work with. So definitely, a good performer, at least on this frequency. Next up, we'll try the 9650 and see how it does. Okay, again, pretty clear, a little bit of fuzz on the fringes there when I tuned it, but again, a nice wide area to work with, and it's probably not going to be real apparent in the camera microphone here, but this by far had the best sound so far, and generally is going to have a better sound than the other radio, as it does have a fairly large speaker inside compared to the others. Okay, and last but not least is the 9540.
We shed the field. We shed each day.
There you could hear that radio was doing pretty well. Sound was good, no real static or anything like that. Sound quality on this one is a little different than the other radios. It's, to me, got a hollow kind of sound to it that I don't know if will translate through the camera or not, but I don't know why, it just seems a little hollow. But as far as the performance of the receiver, it seemed okay. I've always kind of questioned this one a little bit, thinking that it might need an alignment or something, but it could just have a little bit of dirt or crust in the band switch or something that, you know, periodically causes it to not receive quite as well as I think it should. But okay, for the next test, I'm going to try and pull in a weaker FM station. One that I would normally, down here in the cellar, need at least a piece of wire, if not a proper antenna. Okay, I'll start off with the 9740, and I've got the radio tuned to WMRQ 104.1 FM, which is I think transmits out of Meriden, Connecticut. But again, any of these radios could use an alignment, and that could, you know, change the results. And also just the simple position of the radio and where its power cord may be, if that's what it's using for an antenna, could affect its reception. But I think this is at least a little bit indicative of the tuner sensitivity on these radios. So I'll turn this one on first, and you can hear that the station is there. And if I fiddle with the tuning knob a bit and kind of work at it, I can bring it in, and depending on where I put my hand, it kind of comes in a little bit here and there. It's quite fuzzy though, and not really usable to any degree. You know, again, if I put a piece of wire on the end of this radio, it should come in without trouble. But there it is. It's not really coming in on this radio. Okay, next I'll give the 9580 a try. This is tuned to the same station, WMRQ, and we'll turn it on, turn it up, and there you can hear it's coming in quite well. Maybe a tiny bit of fuzz on the edge there, but I'm able to kind of tune it in, and I could easily listen to that if I wanted to here without an antenna. It sounds good. I won't leave it on there too long, so I don't get nailed by the copyright police, but you can hear it's coming in okay. No problems on this one. Okay, next I'll give the 9650 a shot, and so there it seems to be pulling it in okay. A little bit of fuzz on there. Seems to get better when I get near it. Of course, my body is acting as a little bit of an antenna when I touch the chassis of the radio here. So this would be maybe marginally usable at this point. And again, won't leave it on there too long, but you could probably hear it coming in, maybe with a little bit of fuzz on it. Now I'll give the 9540 a shot, and I don't think I turned that one all the way off, so I'll turn this one on and up, and I don't know if you can hear it there or not. No, that's another station, and this one's not catching it at all. But out of all the radios, this one seems to be the flakiest. This is the one that I think either needs a cleaning or an alignment or both. So it's not even there on FM. And again, some of it might be the positioning of the radio or the wires or anything like that. Well, I guess that'll wrap up this video for now. Maybe I'll make some more in the future about each individual radio or do more comparisons or something. We'll see how this one goes. But at any rate, thanks for watching. If you like the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel inclined to do so. And as always, thanks for watching.